State Representative Jeffrey Elmore with your weekly session update for 420. This week, as always, very busy here at the General Assembly. Last week we were in recess and we hit the ground running this week with movement of several bills. Also lots of meetings since we have gotten the House budget done that I was unable to meet with folks. But I want to open up first with offering my condolences to the family of David Odom with his tragic death at the earlier part of this week. David had over 20 years of civic life in Taylorsville and Alexander County, ranging from the manager of Taylorsville to school board chairman, county commission service. Really a core person in civic life in Taylorsville and Alexander County as a whole. Please keep his family in your prayers. I was beyond saddened to hear about his death earlier this week. Now, with some of the meetings that I had this week, I was happy to visit with Mark Bird, school superintendent from Wilkes County Schools, and also the communications director, Dr. Danita Dow-Revis, out of Alexander County Schools. They got to meet. We had a nice long conversation about things that are going on in the school systems and what is happening at the state level here. We have some of the best school systems in the entire state of North Carolina, in Northwest North Carolina. Very proud of Alexander County Schools and Wilkes County Schools, so it was a wonderful meeting. Also, I met with many people dealing with Arts Day was this week, and I was very honored. I've got the award back here. I was presented an award, Exemplary Legislative Service to the Arts, presented by Arts North Carolina. This is a huge honor for me because I've really worked hard to help with arts funding and also deal with arts education issues in our statutes over the years that I have been in the General Assembly. So that was a huge honor for me, and that was this week also. So let's get into some of the bills that moved this week. Probably the biggest bill that you've heard the most news about was HB 574, Fairness in Women's Sports Act. Now, what this act is designed to protect is opportunities for women and girls in athletics. It makes it clear that you are dealing with biological sex when it deals with sports competition from middle school all the way up to our college athletics in North Carolina, that we ensure that we have fair competition to preserve women's athletics, which has been very important since the passage of Title IX. So what it does, it clarifies that each team be expressly designated by the biological sex of the team as one of the following: male teams, female teams, or co-ed teams. This passed 73-39 out of the House on second reading, and it's moved over to the Senate. And I'm here this afternoon, so I'm not sure the movement in the Senate this afternoon. So they move stuff pretty fast, so it may have already moved through their chamber also. This seems like a very common sense piece of legislation to ensure that our women's sports are competitive, how they need to be competitive. So another thing dealing with high school sports, this was interesting, is House Bill 38, entry fee for high school athletic events. Some of our high school or school systems have not been taking cash to be able to get into any of the ball games or sporting events. That really is difficult for some people, especially a lot of our older population. They do not have a smart device or a smartphone to be able to pay for something via an app. They do operate with cash when you're paying, $7, $9, $10, whatever the gate fee is. So this requires that the school systems must offer a cash option for sporting events. Also school related, we passed HB 188. This is Standards of Student Conduct. There are some statutes dealing with how the disciplinary procedures at the local schools should be structured. What this does, this clarifies additional things that need to be done if you do long-term suspend a student, and also it eliminates some example language of what is considered an offense that is severe enough to truly justify a long-term suspension. So that is some very statutory high-level changes that was passed, and it was passed 71-42 to go over to the Senate. Something that I've gotten a whole lot of phone calls about from our local fire departments, volunteer fire departments, is dealing with a criminal history background check requirement that was put in a couple years ago. They have found that they don't disagree with the concept that the criminal history background check needs to be done to ensure that you have people of good ethical character playing in these roles, but the cost has been an issue for some of our smaller fire departments. What this bill will do is open up different options that you can use a third-party entity, that's basically a digital background check. You can use a DPS. You can even use your clerk of court. So it gives more options to lower the cost on our volunteer fire departments to be able to meet this requirement for new recruits. Something that folks with teenage kids getting ready to drive, they're very concerned with this, but COVID really backed up driver's ed, and I've talked about this in the past, the pipeline of kids moving through to get their license. And to try to help this is we passed Senate Bill 157, limited provisional license modifications. This would modify the time that a learner's permit must be held from 12 months to 9 months. This passed the Senate and it came to the House, and now it's moved to the governor. This language was worked out with the executive branch, DMV, Wayne Goodwin. So this is compromise language, and we hope that this will help with the backlog of your teenager that was unable to get a driving test during COVID and try to pan all of that out. So hopefully this will accomplish the goal. Now, something specific to the district that I wanted to touch base with, because we have such a large hunting community in both Wilkes and Alexander that love to deer hunt. There has been a case of chronic wasting disease identified in Wilkes. And if you're not familiar with this is a disease, they sometimes call it the zombie deer disease. It's highly contagious in the herds, and it affects the brain of the animal. So now that they have found one of these animals in Wilkes, you want to be careful as hunting is going on to safely dispose of the carcasses. So you don't want to move the carcass after it is killed. You want to make sure that you double bag the remains and dispose of them at a landfill, or bury the beard and make it deep enough so the deer cannot be dug up, to try to keep this disease from spreading, because it is so contagious. But that's something that I did want to mention. Also coming up this weekend is Rocky Fest down at the Rocky Face Park in Alexander County. That's a big event. It's from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. and that's exciting. And Merle Fest is coming up next week. Thousands of folks will be coming to the Wilkes Community College campus to enjoy traditional Americana music. Excellent lineup this year, celebrating the 35th anniversary. What was really exciting today, we adopted a resolution to have Doc Watson Day in celebration of Doc Watson, and it tied to our Merle Fest Festival that, of course, has been held in memory of his son now for 35 years. So big things for the district coming up next week.